Ward.
Awesome. So I'm gonna bop between my slide and then taking it off of the slide just so that you can we can have more of a conversation. So for students, I work with a variety of students. Can you see the one that says Stages of Innovation?
Yes.
Perfect. So I work with a variety. My background is with education. I project managed and was the principal librarian for a large rare books collection at the State University of New York. It's the flagship of the State University of New York system. So it's a giant campus with 35,000 students, and the rare books was just a mess. So I worked with and taught information technology from RFID to metadata to machine learning to XML coding to a lot of different things, and getting students really excited about how to organize information. And a lot of it was dealing with innovation. So I ended up leaving my tenure after I wrote my textbook and wanted to focus on my family. But my family brought me back in to education, especially in the area of aerospace. My husband works with aerospace, my older son does. My two younger sons are very interested in it. So I'm very much now in the aerospace world, mostly with events that focus in on education. But I do various summer camps. I do a lot of after school clubs. I direct something that I'll tell you about in a minute called the Invention Convention. So I work with K through 8, and I work with high school. I work with college as a mentor, and then graduate students. So I have a variety of hats that I wear. And I'm going to just leave it there for a second. So some of the hats that I wear are directing large scale events where we'll have throughout the school year 1,400 students participate in an invention competition. It's something that was started in the Buffalo Public School system back in the 1970s, and it eventually went to Detroit at the Henry Ford Museum. And every year they have regional events in Florida, in California, New York, and now globally in China, Brazil, everywhere you can imagine, where students K through 12th grade think of an invention, and they have to work it through a prototyping phase. I mean, their prototype could be a Kleenex box, but still it's a prototype, and they feel like they're inventing, they're doing science, they're actively using math and STEM. So I get into every school, public, private, inner city, rural, anything you can imagine, homeschoolers, charter. And I work with groups of students that are engaged in the process of inventing. Now, some of these students are neurodivergent. Not all of them, but some of them are. Some of them may be very gifted academically and need that extra bit of challenge. Some of them may be dyslexic or have dyscalculia, and they are looking for something to, I think, help them have confidence and identify in that way. My own son, that's how I got involved in it. He is dyslexic, and I tell you, as soon as he realized when he was 5 that he could start building something, he could use circuits like the snap circuits, he could build things. That set about confidence that he saw things differently, but it was just as worthwhile as anybody else. So that's really important, is bringing in everyone to the table so that everyone's view is seen. And when they start young and they start inventing and they're in a group, it's very powerful because you have students collaborating with other students, and the magic happens that people see things in different ways. And students realize that when someone gives you feedback, it's not a criticism. You don't cry, you don't give up and run out and scream. You realize that sometimes you may have to tear down and start over again. But they get it from their classmates in such a way that's kind, that is promoting what they're doing. And it's really powerful when I've seen students that come in, they're a little reticent, they're a little shy. And by the end of April, when we have our regional event with 250 students at our science museum, they're ready to show. I mean, I often tell them about this infomercial guy. I don't know if you remember ShamWow, used to be on late at night, and he would, have, the best towel or the best car cleaner or something. And he had this presentation style. And a lot of these students get to kind of act a little bit for the first time. They get to come out of their shell. They get to show other people their invention. So a lot of these students are interested in aerospace. And it's important to get them interested early, because that sets them on a trajectory. Especially, I notice when you I'd say fourth grade. If you don't really have them by fourth grade on a pathway that respects what science and math can do, it's sometimes really hard at sixth and seventh, eighth grade when they're starting to get into sports, when they start to like other people in the class, and then there's cliques that form. It's hard to get them back into that STEM mode where they really need to work hard on it. So getting them to identify as an innovator at a young age is really important. So one of the things that I've done is I work through a curriculum. Our original curriculum was like 40 something pages. It was just too long. These students today, I have a glimpse into literally K through graduate school. They need something short. They need something very to the point. They're very intelligent, and you don't have to define a lot for them, but you have to make them do the work. And a lot of times they want to jump steps, but you really have to have them have their ideas, research it, prototype, iterate, problem solve. And I think Ron was just talking about problem solving on the ISS. It's one of the biggest things that they have to do is problem solve, refine their ideas, refine their communication style. Think about marketing, think about the business aspect. Is using a certain type of 3D printing more cost efficient than having it printed in a different way? I mean, they have to think about a lot of different things, from PLA costs to marketing. You know, is this something safe? Is it something that could, if a child got it, if they could swallow something, a part of your invention, would it be a choking hazard? All of those kind of things that they have to think about. And it really matures them in such a way that a lot of these students that I've worked with in September that are just clueless as to what they might want to invent, by April or May, they want to get a business plan together. They want to have someone help fund their business. So you see that movement. And I feel really good about it. What we do is we have this invention convention. I put the link up, and please feel free to look for me on LinkedIn. It's just Diane Ward. I'm sitting there like this. I have a lot of things that I'm involved with in space, so probably pretty easy to find me. But the competitions are basically STEM based, and what they do is they encourage the students to bring out their math and their science skills. And it's so important to inspire them with that, because it's not just doing math for math's sake, it's doing math so that you can actually solve a problem. So a lot of what I do is outreaching and partnering with the schools, with the principals,
open chat panel, bring new messages button,
with the teachers, with everyone that would be interested in supporting their students. I do a lot of outreach to sponsors to have them partner with us, so that as we run on a shoestring budget, we're able to outreach to all schools. Some schools you need to entice the students a little bit more, maybe give them a little bit of swag. I find that there's a lot of different fidget spinners that if I give the students a fidget spinner, all of a sudden they're like, you gave us something, let's see what else you could give us. But then it turns, not what I can give you, it's what you can give yourself. And basically just working with one another, I see partnerships growing between students that, may not normally work together. Some of the kids that may be more scientifically geared will work with some of the students that are more interested in business or marketing. And it's interesting, I've had teachers explain to me that, it's interesting to see how the pairings sometimes happen, that there are two students that don't usually get along or don't usually communicate, suddenly pair up because they find that the other one has what they're lacking. So teamwork is really important to get the students going for that. So getting them through that startup process is extraordinarily important. One of the things I like to do is have different people in the community that have expertise work with some of these students and mentor them. It doesn't always work out that well, because sometimes, a student might have an idea that they think is just fantastic, and it's, something that'll fix broken crayons, or a desk organizer, something that they can find elsewhere. However, I don't like usually to tell the students, oh, that idea is not great. I tell them, it may have been done before, but you can put your own stamp on it, make it your own, because I see their excitement that they're building something from their own heart and their own needs. And I want to encourage that. So I cannot tell you how many broken crayon fixers I have seen over the years. But when a 5 or 6 year old is really excited about the way they think they can fix it, you let them go with it. Now, if a 16-year-old comes to me with that same thing, then I'm saying, wait a minute, you've skipped a lot of the steps with research, and you really got to think about the viability of this project. You only have so much time, right? So much time to devote to these, especially when they get older. They have limited time, they have sports, they have boyfriend, girlfriends, whatever they want to do, they have stuff to do. So their time to work on something that they may want to take to a startup level is shrunk. So that research phase is so important for them, so they can understand if there's something out there, what the competition is. And I have them do SWOT analysis. So they look at the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, the threats for their invention. And I try to give them a little bit of a business education for that, because it's really important for them to understand how, we think about Tesla and Edison and Musk and all the great inventors of our time. You have to have some business sense and some genius. You have to have both. And getting them at a young age to respect that maybe they won't have all of the answers, but they can work with teams that will help them get those answers. So I like to support them to where they can get something of a viable product. Now, how many have gone on to greatness? We've had, in the competition nationally, we've had a student, well, they all auditioned for Shark Tank, but we had one actually get a deal with Robert Hershavac. He had a two-handed umbrella. It's quite brilliant. And this was a COVID invention. It was during COVID. It was two handles so that, a father and son could basically walk and each one would hold the umbrella. So one isn't more tipped towards the other. And I was able to sit in on a panel with this young inventor. I think he's 16. And his father and grandfather were there. And I remember them from when they won. And I was just so impressed with how he's gone through the patent law phases. And it's long. It's hard. It's not something instant. So they really learn that there's a process. But the process is there to protect them and their IP. So that's absolutely important for them. Just to not think that, I'm going to pitch this idea and then everything's going to be taken care of. They really learn that they have to do a lot of the work themselves just to be safe. So with pitching and mentorship, a lot of the students, they have various strengths. As they move into college, there are different launch pads. And I like to participate at the University of Buffalo. I know I saw that someone had a Buffalo Bills logo for their Zoom card, and go Bills. I'm from Buffalo. And I feel that at the University of Buffalo, they do it so well with their launch pad. They have events throughout the year to really bring in local experts that have either worked through a startup, work with startups, or have large, well-planted companies. So sometimes I think the students during these invention sprints, they may not necessarily come away with an invention deal, the Shark Tank-like deal, but they often will come away with an internship opportunity or a job opportunity. Now, many of the students I deal with invention, they find that I spend a lot of my time with space, and so many of them open up that they love space. They're so excited about it. They either want to be an astronaut or they want to travel to Mars. I had a group of fourth and fifth graders, 30. After school, we met every week, and boys and girls, and I asked them at one point in time who would want to go to Mars. Now, normally I will get I would say 5 to 10% of the student population in a class will say, I do. And most of them are like, oh, are you crazy? No one wants to go there. This most recent group, I think it was more than half, it was 60%, said they wanted to go to Mars or the moon. They wanted to, be able to travel there, maybe take a vacation and then come home. And a couple of them wanted to be able to stay there, that they thought it was like the utmost human duty to be able to explore something and be able to bring back and maybe, help create cures for cancer or cures for other diseases. And I think one of the most important things that I'm finding with students that are interested in innovation in aerospace is they have this sense of a oneness. They really want to see all countries participate in this. They want to have everyone be at the table. And I really think that's beautiful. They all feel like the US will probably lead it, but they want to see, Canada, Europe, Italy, they want to see everyone participate. So I think that says something for our next and upcoming generations, that there is a sense of community. And I think space brings out that community. It really does. For a while, I have been helping an absolute three genius men. And I'm so proud to call them my friends. Kevin Simmons, Dr. Kevin Johnson of Blue Origin. Kevin Simmons is of Near Space and formerly of Green School in Florida. Kevin Johnson is of Blue Origin, and Dr. Jin Kang of the U.S. Naval Academy. And the four of us put on a Smallsat Education Conference at the Center for Space Education. And my kudos to Chris Albright and Thad Altman down there, because they are really the perfect venue for what we try to do. We try to have students realize that no matter what age you're at, whether you're middle school, elementary, high school, college, you can look for opportunities to do high altitude balloon launches, small CubeSat launches, and that you can integrate these opportunities into chemistry, biology, physics, any of your other sciences. You can really spread that out. And that the CubeSat, although it's not cheap, if you can find funding, and we try to help network people so that they can find sources of funding, you can really supercharge your education. You can get the students at such a place where they are actively learning how to solder. They can learn how to create 3D housing, use AutoCAD, market, find sponsorship, learn about policy, understand different rules for orbital mechanics. They can understand things that most students cannot. And Kevin Simmons years ago started this brilliant group called the Wolfpack. And my sons, luckily, are part of that. Again, he's in Florida, we're in New York, so we don't actually get to go down there that much, but he has an online group. And Kevin was also part of Mark's Wonderful Day Today. So if you get a chance to go back and look at what Kevin Simmons is talking about, he's done some amazing things with students that have had opportunities and have gone on to great jobs because of the education, the practical project-based education that he provides for them. So our conference basically has these workshops that I try to structure in such a way that we have soldering. We have students from Florida Atlantic come in, and we had, I think, 40 something students last year, equal split of girls and guys, middle school, high school, and a few college, learn how to solder a circuit and learn about the nuances of that. And these are students that have never had the chance to do that. We had giveaways with robotics. So I had a robotics kit. One student actually stayed up all night. He's 12. He got the door prize, and he stayed up all night, and he put his first robot together. And he brought it back the next day for the conference, and he was showing everyone, and it was just amazing. I was so impressed. A lot of the directions, as you know, for a lot of these robot kits, if you've ever done them with students, it's hit and miss. So, for example, my summer camp this summer coming up, I'm doing 2 different weeks at the Science Museum for Aerospace, and I always buy a test kit to make sure, and I try to go through with it. And so many times, the directions are online, but the directions are wrong. They're missing steps, and you want to work through it before you give it to your student, because the worst thing that can happen is, you have to try to duct tape something or super glue something because they didn't give you the right part. So luckily, he was able to problem solve at midnight, and he got it done at 2 a.m. And I was so impressed with that I feel like every student, if it's possible, should be able to have that experience. They should be able to have a wonderful robotic kit that they have to work through. They have to problem solve, because that's the kind of thing that creates grit. So one of the things I like to do, not only with the Smallsat Education Conference, but with the Invention Convention and with other things that I do education-wise, is teach the students that sometimes things will not go smoothly, but you don't give up. You have the perseverance, you keep going. And again, when they work in teams, it's so much easier for them to balance out. I see students being able to cheer up one another when something doesn't go right. And I think that it bodes well for what's going to happen with our next generation of aerospace professionals. For the Smallsat conference, what I like to do is I like to have different workshops, and I don't think I was going to list them all, but I'm still in the process of making most of them up. But this year we have so many. We have soldering again. We have Eris, the radio, ham radio basically. We have a whole room at the Center for Space Education that we set up for 2 days, and students and teachers come in and they learn about radio. So way in the back there's a bright pink book. It was a textbook I wrote about radio frequency identification technology way back in like 2005, 6, 7. And they gave me a bright pink. I hate pink, but they made my book bright pink. So, it's a serious textbook when you see bright pink. But, that book helped to innovate a lot of library work and museum work, because auto identification technology was thought to be something that was going to, rob everyone of their privacy and take away so many of the jobs of librarians, whereas they're able to repurpose a lot of the libraries and librarians into more community hubs for people and take away some of the mundane, repetitive jobs. And also it allows for the finding of materials very easily. With other technology, that we're going to have workshops for, RFID will be there. We'll show some of the applications that they can use in space, whether it's on the ISS or other ways. So we'll have Eris, soldering, RFID, blockchain for space. That's very interesting. AI for space, space law, circuitry building. And one that I really think is going to be interesting, we're going to have, hopefully, John Zarella will be there from CNN talking about space journalism. And then we're also going to have one about space podcasting. I think it's really important because not every student that's interested in space is going to necessarily want to be studying some of the other books that I have that focus on orbital mechanics. They're not going to follow that pathway perhaps. So if you want to keep them involved, some of I hate this word, but the softer sciences, right? Some of those are what is needed. You need people that have skills with artistry, because artists, I think most people don't understand, artists are problem solvers too. They can see things that, I'm not technically an artist, but they can see things that I can't, and they can solve problems by making something come to life on a canvas or with a photo. And that's problem solving. So I think we need to have everybody at that table. And so what we try to do at Smallsat Education is not just teach about CubeSats and how to get educators and their students involved in CubeSat projects, but some of the surrounding aerospace education opportunities. So I like that because with my interest directing the New York Invention Convention, we have so many students. We're spreading out across the state. So I always get some people from downstate coming up to Buffalo for the Invention Convention, and we can only house 250 people. I could probably put, if I had a large enough space, I could probably get about 1,800 students with their inventions. But the quality necessarily isn't always there. So sometimes it's good, I feel, to have the students participate in school invention competitions. Not that I want every student to participate. I want every student to feel like they're a winner, because invention to me is something so personal that I don't want them to ever feel like, oh, I tried, I didn't win my school competition, so I'm never going to do invention again. Because I know I was that way with science. Old school science fairs back in the 70s and 80s. If you didn't win, You're not the scientist, you're not the artist. So there's a lot of different things now that schools are doing. There's a lot of no homework schools. So there's no homework that goes home. So everything done is done during the day. Any after school clubs like the ones I run are done, and you have to have everything done with those students. They don't take things home anymore. So having an invention club, when I go there, I tell them, I'm going to break the rules a little bit because I want you thinking at home about your invention. I want you to engage with your parents and say, this is my idea around the dinner table. What do you think of my idea? That's your first pitch. That's your first market research. And the students that are interested in innovation in aerospace, same thing. They end up, I had one student who's brilliant, Marcus. He wanted to, his invention was a new astronaut glove. Now, a lot of students have given me new astronaut gloves as an invention. And unfortunately, they don't usually win the competitions because it's something that you really can't necessarily bring to market. It's not something that people on Shark Tank are going to say, oh, that's like the newest sponge or the newest scrubber, and we can market that at Walmart. No, that's not the type of thing. But these students often that are coming up with these ideas, a lot of them, I go into some of the poorest, socioeconomically challenged areas in the city. And I've had so many moms, and I get chills thinking about it, calling me saying, my son came home, he's excited about science, he wants to be an aerospace engineer, I never heard this out of his mouth before. Our neighborhood's not that great, help me, help him stay on this pathway. So luckily, there's a lot of different groups that do support youth, but it's hard because I can only go to so many schools. I can only get so many teachers that are willing to stay after to do something for free. But when I get people from the community that want to help, and they have students like this one student, Marcus, that made this astronaut glove, it really does inspire you. It makes you feel like I'm reaching somebody. Someone's life is going to be a little different, and that person has that spark now at 10, 12, or whatever it is, 18, that their next 5, 10 years, it's going to be on a different pathway because we're just two human beings, and we just happen to be in the same room at the same time, and we're talking about the same thing. And that's very powerful for educators. I really feel that we all have that opportunity to make that impact in someone's life. And I'm gonna stop in just a second and ask for questions. But I think that if you have an invention convention, and that's the name of it, invention convention, and trust me, I have to say that so many times during the day, it's invention convention, nearby you in one of your states, whether it's Connecticut, Florida, California, Texas, it's great to reach out to them. I'm very close with all of the nationals. I'm a judge for the global help with the nationals. Please reach out to me if you want to be connected to someone in your region, because it really does make a difference to have that mentorship and that impact, even if you're just judging. That's so important. For my older students that are interested in innovation, that do aerospace, like my summer camps for teenagers, once they hit, I want to say 12, the summer camps, it's difficult. My children range from ages 12 to 25, oh my goodness, 12 to 25. And I've been able to watch ebbs and flows in a very interesting way. So when I was at the University of Buffalo for 20 years, I was able to watch, the interests of students. And now I see, most of the students are interested in ChatGPT, and they realize its limitations. Even the younger ones, they think it's fun to be able to use, but they realize that sometimes it gets things wrong. I worry a little bit about the art, the poetry of research, because it really is an art, and there's a poetry about it. You can research something and market what you find in such a way that you can really uplift the world. I fear sometimes that what AI is going to do is it's going to not have I like to say all the adjectives and all the adverbs that sometimes our research, our primary research, allows us to have. So I feel that if you kind of see what I'm saying, I don't necessarily trust AI as much as I should, I suppose. I use it all the time, but I don't necessarily trust it because I found many mistakes and many errors. And I feel that the students, when you tell that to them, they'll look at you and they're like, oh, you just don't know. This is our thing. AI is our thing. We're going to use it. It's going to be great. And it's not always perfect. So trying to get the students with innovation where they cannot use AI because they have to do something completely unique. It has to come from them. And when they branch it out into aerospace, you get such fresh ideas. Raytheon is a sponsor for our National Invention Convention in Detroit. And everyone says, Raytheon, well, RTX is your sponsor? Yes, of course, because RTX wants to be there if they spot the next genius. I mean, that's the perfect place for them to be. And a lot of the people that I bring in as sponsors in New York, same thing. They want to be there on the ground because they want to see some students that they may be able to eventually bring up into internships. They may have something brilliant to share. It's that aha, eureka moment that, may come so easily to an 8-year-old that us who are much older don't see. And I've had some students that just wowed me with their inventions. I'm thinking, why hasn't anyone ever thought of that? And we promote them to go on to nationals, and if they win, they go on to the globals. Now, again, you can sometimes spot where the parents have done the invention, the research for the student. Luckily, we have rubrics for judging these things, so we're able to assess pretty quickly if this is something a student has done on their own. With the aerospace component, I find it's extraordinarily important for them to do the research in such a way that they're not handicapping themselves or preventing themselves from seeing future growth. So I think sometimes some of the students I've noticed, they will limit themselves by what's available now. They're only thinking of 2024, 2025, what technology is around now. So their biggest spaceship they can imagine would be the Starship, or SLS, some of the things I've got behind me. That's what they're thinking. You'll find some that will just come out of left field with something. And everyone else will look at them in the classroom, but that's a student that's thinking outside of the box. That's the dreamer. That's a student that could write science fiction. Because think of a lot of our aerospace, there's that relationship with aerospace and science fiction. We're coming up on the 60th anniversary of Star Trek. We're coming up on the 100th anniversary of Goddard, first liquid fueled rocket. Those are two very monumental things. For those of you that have ever heard of Virtual Moon, Manny Pimenta has that. You can have a student look and see what it felt like to just look out at the moon while on the moon. I mean, that's just absolutely, to me, mind-blowing. That you can have the students really get that sense of isolation, the sense that they had to have extraordinary courage to be astronauts, and that really does help the students learn in a different way. I just want to share one last thing with you. For those of you who know Lucy Presapio or Sarah Calmetta, two wonderful, wonderful people, they're working on an event at Kennedy. It's called One Space. It's what was Yuri's Night. I'm sure we're all familiar with Yuri's Night. So on the Space Coast, June 21st, if you want to use Space for All, I know that's their buy one, get one free ticket. I'll be there. I'm happy to be helping Lucy and Sarah. They're wonderful. And this event's going to be amazing. And what I was mentioning before, this ties in perfectly. Art, music, space. You have to bring in everybody to the table. And so bringing in people who may be the artists, maybe the musicians, maybe the astrophysicists, and bringing them all together really does help us, I think, move forward and innovate. So please, use that code. You can go to Sempre.one, use Space for All. I think it's like $40 a ticket. So that's not bad, $40 to be underneath the Atlantis for a night with other space loving space people. That would be that'd be a great time. Feel free to reach out to me also. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to share my phone number. Sometimes that's the easiest thing to do while I'm walking the dog, is to talk to a new friend about invention and aerospace. And again, also, if you have a chance to watch Kevin Simmons, he's an absolute amazing speaker about what you can do with students, aerospace and innovation together. And also Sarah Calmetta's coming up. She is an absolute powerhouse of a speaker. Mark has really outdone himself this year with this. I'm so impressed with everybody that's been on. But I've spoken way too much, so please, any questions you may have. And you could just unmute. You don't have to raise your hand or anything. Just go for it. What additional interests do I find? Yeah, what additional interests? So I'm going to put in a couple of emails for myself. Let me put in this one at gmail.com. Okay, and then I'll put in that one, and then it's D Ward Bartello, but my LinkedIn profile is just Diane Ward. And let's see, what other interests? We have been doing a lot of project management. I ran a workshop 2 years in a row now for Smallsat about project management. So agile project, program design. So we're really teaching the students about what it means to be on a project. So a lot of times our older students will be looking ahead, and they'll look at a space or defense company and they'll say, you got to be a program manager, got to have project design. And they don't quite understand what that means. So one of the big workshops, a friend of mine, Macaulay from IEEE, is going to be doing, probably with Misha from CCTS, is about project management. It's so important to understand for students that business is important in space, the marketing component, the logistics, supply chain, policy. How do you make sure that you're following the law for everything you're doing for a program? And so that the students can start getting a taste for what it means to be an adult in the working place. Because it's a lot different when you're a student and everyone is telling you what to do. And you may not realize all the different components that you need to be able to pull out of yourself in order to push a program forward. One of the other workshops we're going to be doing is a policy workshop. That's going to be really exciting. I believe Shauna Christensen is going to be doing that one. She is great with policy and debate, and I think the students are going to learn a little bit more about how to orchestrate, navigate their interests of space in terms of government funding. So that's something that's important too. One of the things that I would like to work on eventually with educators at that would be a grant writing workshop. How do you get money for something like this? With CubeSats, how do you get money? With invention, how do you get money? Where is that money that we can get so we can supplement? Because what we usually do, at least with the invention convention, is I will go to dollar stores because they have the cheapest trifold cardboards. I need to have, every student has to have a trifold cardboard, science board behind them, so they can explain their project from start to finish. And that helps them guide them through. And they're literally $1.25 at the dollar store. And if I buy them elsewhere, they're $5. Well, if you have 80 students to 100 students doing it in one school, it gets very expensive for the school. And we need to be able to find cheaper ways of getting products to students to help them contribute to the next generation of innovation. And at the bare minimum, finding solid funding that's recurring year after year through grants is really number one. We've been able to get grants for our Western New York Invention Convention, and we've been very fortunate. Qualcomm was very generous with us. And that's really sustained us and been able to help us outreach in a way we never would have been able to before. But little things like swag, you have to buy swag for students. You have to give them something to have them feel like, oh, cool, it was worth participating because I got a really cool robot fidget spinner. And the things that I try to get them are things that will help them enjoy science. I have and I probably don't have it with me. I always have one next to me, except for right now. It's a special tape measure that has a level with it. A tape measure, it has a little notepad that they can write notes on. And it's amazing that these students will look at a tape measure and just be mystified by it for a good half an hour. And they don't necessarily get that tactile, project-based, hands-on type of learning at a young age. So they feel empowered by that they're going to measure stuff, that they're going to make measurements. And I see that after I give them that little gift, I see on their boards, all of a sudden things have numbers with them. There's measured, they're quantifying things. And that's an important step, integrating math into that. Same with aerospace. Anything we can do for workshops down there to bring them in is fantastic. So excellent question. Anyone else have any other questions? Oh, you're from Detroit. I love it.
Are you coming to Detroit? Are you coming to Detroit at all?
This year, no, because I've got a conflict with my time. But I'm usually there every year around the first week of June. Yeah, it's great. I love that city very much. It's a lot like Buffalo. That's probably why.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
No.
Now I can.
Okay. All right. Where's the conference this year? What was the date for the conference you're having this year?
The small satellite one is October. I should have put that down. That would have been smart. It's October 24, 25, and 26 in Florida. If you go to, make sure I'm typing here. Am I typing? I'm not typing. Smallsateducation.org. And there is the link. And it's October 24 to 26 at Kennedy Space Center. But it's the wonderful Center for Space Education. If you have any opportunity to visit that building, it is fantastic. Chris and Thad have an amazing building there, and I believe they also have an education seminar coming up at the end of June too. Hopefully I'll be there at that one.
At the end of June.
Yeah.
Okay. And
I don't have the link for that one.
Okay. So I sent an invitation to connect with you on LinkedIn. So
Perfect.
hopefully.
Perfect. I will look for it. And I'm happy to hop on calls with anyone, more than happy to do that. I love spreading the word about Invention Convention. It's easy to start a chapter in your own area if there's not one already. And it's also pretty easy to start an aerospace club for after-school students. They need it because it's just not taught in schools at most ages until they get into high school. Then they may get a little touch of it, but it's too late. I wrote an article for ASEE, American Society for Engineering Educators, oh gosh, probably 5 or 6 years ago. If you do the statistics on how many students who are engineers drop out their second year, and by the third year, you've got, slashed percentage of what started out. That's frightening. We're not preparing them in high school for what the rigors of engineering really is. And I don't think it's just the math. I really do think it's a lot of grit. You have to have that grit. And I think sometimes we're doing a disservice to the students if we don't have them try something and fail and then have to reiterate. And that's all what invention convention is about. Most of the students, they may come up with a couple ideas, but it's usually not their very first idea that they end up going with. They usually realize, the crayon fixer has already been done and they can't redo it enough. You can connect with me. There's several ways. Email me, dwardbartello. Let me give you that one at gmail.com. Reach out on LinkedIn. Also, I'm there. I'm happy to, entertain anything.
Diane, I have a question for you. Oh, sorry.
Sure.
No. Whoever spoke up, go ahead and go first.
How would you start a chapter with invention convention? Do you have materials for that for each person that gets started? Is it like a franchise or trademarked or licensee? How does that work?
Yes. There is, well, it started in Buffalo and it was pretty much just like Buffalo, but when it became, I think, somehow incorporated in Detroit, they have more of a hold on it. But I can definitely connect you with Emily Shannon, who runs Invention Convention, and she's right nearby. She's in Dearborn, right at the Henry Ford is their office. So
Okay.
definitely connect
All
you.
right. Good.
Yeah. Where are you
I
in
appreciate
Detroit? Are you right in the city?
I'm in the city and I am in the suburbs as well, like Troy,
Okay.
Birmingham, that area.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, I'll connect
That's
you. That's awesome.
all right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
this is
worries.
incredible.
Great to meet you.
Thank
So
you.
Diane, my question to you is what has been your approach to fostering collaboration on around innovations? Yeah, I mean, because in any kind of project, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It doesn't have to be engineering. It could be science. There is I think, a common attribute of teamwork that goes with that. Um, yeah, what has been your approach or approach to helping with modeling or demonstrating the value of teamwork and how that can be built out and educators essentially foster ideas from you to help with that.
So I also help moderate a few other challenges. Mars Innovation, Future City, a bunch of other little ones, right? For the Future City one, to help that teamwork component, I have the students do, and these are teens, do a modified shortened Myers-Briggs. So like they get an idea of if they're an INFJ or if they're an ESTG or ESTJ, they figure out kind of a little bit who they are. And it almost helps to codify some of the things they always thought, like, oh, I'm not really an extrovert, I'm kind of an introvert. And when they see it there, it kind of gives them a realization that, oh, okay, that is kind of who I am. And it's interesting because our teams often, opposites attract. And once we do that, the students get so excited. They're like, oh, great. You're an E. You can do a lot of the discussion, and I'm an I don't feel comfortable doing that. And I wouldn't really want to participate in this project if I had to speak. Some of the students will transfer over, they'll get their confidence, they'll find their voice. But a lot of students, especially, I'd say the freshman students, they're a little shy still. So learning from an older student or a student that's a little more confident helps encourage them to speak. And I see the students working together. And a lot of it is, getting the students to, split up divisions so that you go outside of your comfort zone eventually. But at the beginning, you get them involved and you let them think they're going to be comfortable. And then you say, no, you got to speak. You got to have your voice. And then a lot of times once they start speaking, they realize they love it, that it's easy. There's nothing to be afraid of. No one's going to laugh at them. And that teamwork then, they really gel. There's a cohesion there and there's a power. And it's always so sad when it's the end of the project. The kids always feel so like, oh, I wanted to keep going with it. What can we do next? We finished, I'll just tell this one quick aside. We finished this one project, Future City. The students came in, I think like second, or no, they won one competition portion and then they didn't win another. But they were so happy that they won one part of it. Okay. So they knew that they couldn't go on to the States. They were done now. But they were so excited about next year, possibly winning next year and going on to States, that the next week I saw the students. Two of the students brought in things already done. Like one had brought in an electrified windmill that he created, 3D printed, and he electrified it, circuits, everything. And they came in with stuff for next year. I'm like, we're not even registered for next year yet. They've already got the components. They're already thinking about it. 2 days ago, they were talking about it. They're excited. And I find I can step back. I can have, my son often is a project manager for some of these because some of the students are new to it. They're a little bit shy. And I see him this year telling me, no, this year I'm going to be able to have a team that'll work with me. I'm just not going to get stuck doing this stuff. There's going to be a team that's excited. That's a main key. Sometimes having a student that's not afraid, pull up the others, and then everyone's empowered. So
Thank you for that.
yeah, no worries. Yeah, but feel free, send me a LinkedIn invitation, email me. I'm happy to chat, happy to hop on Zoom calls, phone calls, anything.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we wait here? Do we go into Mark's room? I wasn't sure if I should take the entire time or leave people a little bit to go get coffee or such.
Yeah, I can go ahead and stop the recording. We can let the time run out for the session and allow people to leave if they want to.
Perfect. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.